15 years of marriage ended in a single night, not with sorrow, but with threats. My wife stood in my garage alongside her MMA fighter boyfriend, prepared to claim my home, my savings, and even my liberty. She believed that a restraining order and false accusations would be enough to break me. What Amanda did not realize was that betrayal often comes from those we trust the most, and our reaction to it reveals our true character. Have you ever experienced something like this? Feel free to share your thoughts below. Your experience is important. My name is Derek Hawkins. I am 42 years old. This is the account of how treachery within my own household pushed me to fight a different kind of battle, one I am determined not to lose. Derek Hawkins pulled his truck into the driveway. The late afternoon sunlight stretched long shadows across the garage door. When it slowly rose with its familiar metallic shriek, his stomach grew tight. Something was clearly wrong. Derek had learned long ago to trust that instinct. His garage had always been his refuge, a place to escape the chaos of the world. But now, Amanda stood there like she owned it, her carefully manicured fingers resting possessively on the tattooed forearm of Ricky Vega. Derek recognized him immediately. Ricky was a flashy local MMA fighter, whose image appeared on fight posters around town. Seeing him in Derek's garage wearing his favorite Metallica shirt felt like the ultimate insult. Amanda's face was cold and distant, nothing like the woman who once kissed. She told him goodbye before every deployment. "We need to talk," she said, her tone sharp enough to pierce through anything. Derek stepped out of his truck slowly, his gaze fixed on Ricky. His military instincts took over, noting all possible exits, weapons, and threats. "Talk about what exactly?" His voice stayed calm, though his body was tense like a coiled spring. "I am leaving you," Amanda declared, raising her chin defiantly. "I've been with Ricky Vega for 8 months. I am filing for divorce on Monday." 8 months. Derek did not show any reaction, but the calculation was immediate. That matched when she began taking yoga classes, having girls' nights, and stopped looking at him the way she once did. Ricky moved forward, cracking his knuckles loudly, wearing a confident smirk. "Leave now, soldier boy, or I will put you in the hospital," he threatened, his thick Boston accent filled with arrogance. "She is with a real man now." Derek chuckled softly, almost amused though. There was no hint of humor in his eyes. "Cage fighting is cute," he said, while rolling up his flannel sleeves to show scars shimmering in the light. Shrapnel wounds, knife cuts, scars earned in real battles. "But I spent 15 years taking lives in Afghanistan. I know 47 ways to take you down with my bare hands." Ricky threw the first punch, his pride louder than his senses. Derek moved smoothly, catching Ricky's wrist mid-swing and twisting it sharply. Within seconds, Ricky was face down on the concrete, his arm bent in a painful and unnatural way. Derek applied just enough pressure to let him realize how close he was to breaking a bone. Amanda shouted, but Derek did not raise his voice. "This is my house," he said quietly, his tone icy. "If you want to leave, then leave, but you do not threaten me in my own home." He released Ricky, who scrambled backward holding his wrist. Amanda's expression twisted in anger. "You are both sick. I am taking half of everything, Derek. The house, the savings, your precious truck." "Your lawyer can contact mine," Derek replied flatly. "But next time you send muscle to intimidate me, make sure it is someone who has actually fought in a real fight." As Ricky's car sped away, Amanda's fierce glare was the last thing Derek saw before they disappeared. He stood silently, staring at the oil stain where Ricky had hit the ground. The burden of 15 wasted years settled heavily on him. Finally, he walked to his workbench, opened a drawer, and pulled out a satellite phone he had not used in years. "They want war," Derek whispered, his voice calm but firm. "They chose the wrong man." Derek remembered a time when Amanda's smile was the first thing on his mind in the morning and the last thing he saw before leaving for deployment. Their early marriage was based on mutual respect and trust. Amanda was a kindergarten teacher then, gentle, patient, and endlessly supportive. She had stood at airport gates with tears in her eyes, waving as he left. He enlisted in military transports, vowing to provide stability for their lives while he was deployed. For a long time, Derek believed their love was as steadfast as the promises they had made to each other. However, time has a way of transforming people. After his third deployment, Amanda's attitude began to change. She started making small, pointed remarks, questioning why he could not simply find a regular job like other husbands did. By the time of his fourth deployment, her frustration had turned into obvious bitterness. "You care more about the military than you do about me," she once said during a video call, her voice filled with resentment. Derek attempted to comfort her, but every discussion felt like a cross-examination. The affectionate woman he had married seemed to be fading away, replaced by someone who viewed his service as an excuse rather than a sacrifice. The first time Derek heard the name Ricky Vega, it was mentioned casually during a phone conversation. Amanda had started attending a new yoga class, and Ricky would occasionally show up for charity events supporting local gyms. He was a flashy figure in their small town, the type of man who thrived on attention, boasting about his mixed martial arts career and charming audiences with his rebellious attitude. While Derek was thousands of miles away, Amanda found herself attracted to the excitement Ricky represented. It did not take long for Derek to observe subtle yet disturbing changes in her behavior. Her phone, which used to be left openly on the kitchen counter, was now always placed face down, and she began taking it with her to the bathroom during showers. Girls' nights became increasingly frequent, and she started arriving home later, carrying the scent of lavish perfume. Ricky had never seen Amanda wearing new clothes before, but now her wardrobe filled with items far beyond her usual spending habits. Derek wanted to accept her explanations about new acquaintances, fresh interests, and simply trying to reclaim her youth. Yet his instincts, sharpened by years in conflict zones, signaled that something was wrong. The betrayal, which he would discover much later, reached far beyond a mere affair. Amanda and Ricky had not stumbled into a careless romance. They crafted a deliberate scheme to dismantle Derek's life gradually. While Derek was still deployed overseas, Amanda initiated false claims accusing him of unpredictable and violent conduct. She quietly spread fake allegations of domestic abuse that portrayed him as a dangerous man burdened by post-traumatic stress. By the time Derek came back, she had sown enough mistrust among neighbors, friends, and even the local authorities to make her narrative convincing. The most painful blow came when Derek found out Amanda had acquired classified information about his military background. Details about his discharge, his missions, and a highly sensitive event involving a former superior had somehow reached her attorney. They planned to exploit this information as blackmail, forcing him to relinquish most of their shared possessions under the threat of public disgrace. Amanda was not just abandoning him, she was executing a calculated destruction of his world. Turning his own existence and sacrifices into a weapon aimed at him, Derek sat alone in his workshop after uncovering the full extent of Amanda's betrayal. Instead of the heartbreak he anticipated, a transformation stirred within him. His anger did not flare but cooled, sharpening into something far more lethal. This was no simple end to a marriage. Amanda had declared a personal war, tarnishing his reputation, his honor, and his years of service to serve her own interests. Derek glanced at the satellite phone resting on his workbench, his mind already plotting moves and alliances. "This is not about heartbreak anymore," he whispered, voice firm and measured. "It is war, and she has no idea who she is challenging." Derek remained in his workshop well after sunset, the overhead light casting a pale glow over the oil-stained floor. His thoughts moved with the precision and care reminiscent of his time in Afghanistan, slow, calculated, and purposeful. If Amanda Enrico sought battle, he would face it in the only way familiar to him. Wars are not won through fury alone. They require careful strategy. Stretching out his hand toward the satellite phone, its cool metal beneath his fingers symbolized the life he once led. Old allies never vanished completely. They lingered in the background, ready to be summoned when needed. The first call was to Tommy Kowalski, a comrade who had shared 3 deployments with Derek, and transitioned from the rigid discipline of military service to the unpredictable world of private operations. When Tommy... His voice carried the same effortless confidence Derek remembered clearly. "You sound terrible, Sergeant," Tommy said, addressing Derek by his former rank. Derek skipped any small talk. "I need a favor with absolute discretion. Extensive background checks on Amanda Hawthorne and Ricky Vega. I want everything. Bank accounts, criminal history, offshore dealings. If they've made any move in the last 6 months, I want to know about it." Tommy did not hesitate. "Give me 72 hours," he answered. True to his promise, Tommy reported back early. 2 days later, Derek sat at his desk, going through the files Tommy gathered. Ricky Vega was not just an aspiring MMA fighter, he was running a small protection racket from his gym, forcing local businesses to pay for security they did not need. The footage Tommy sent revealed Ricky assaulting a shopkeeper who refused to pay. Amanda, on the other hand, was laundering Ricky's money through her work at a dental clinic. She exploited patient data to fabricate billing records, channeling illicit funds into offshore accounts under fake names. Yet the most intriguing revelation was not criminal, but personal. Ricky had a younger sister, Maria Vega, a college student on a pre-med scholarship, who was uninvolved and unaware of how her brother was financing her education. While Ricky could be intimidating in the ring, Tommy's notes hinted that beneath the toughness, every bully had vulnerabilities. There was something to lose, Tommy had noted in his report. Derek leaned back in his chair, absorbing the details. Ricky's weakness was exactly what he needed. With his adversaries vulnerable, Derek began preparing his snare. Battles were won by making foes overreach, leading them into their own ruin. Derek spent the following 3 days planting misleading clues, fabricating false financial statements indicating he had received a substantial combat bonus and was struggling with mental instability. He scattered just enough hints in public documents and private talks for Amanda to discover. Derek even staged a minor dispute with a neighbor within earshot of her acquaintances, allowing rumors of his supposed instability to spread. The plan unfolded more swiftly than he anticipated. Amanda, eager to gain leverage, filed for emergency child support within a week. Her attorney argued Derek posed a danger to himself and others, demanding $10,000 monthly support and freezing his main accounts. Sitting at his workbench with a glass of whiskey, Derek grinned upon reading the legal notice. Every action she took only tightened the trap he was crafting. She was unaware that every file, every signature, every dialogue was being recorded and preserved. "Perfect," Derek whispered as he set the glass down. "The more you act, Amanda, the deeper you fall." This was no longer about heartbreak. This was about breaking them apart piece by piece. Piece by piece until nothing remained. The Riverside Casino echoed with the roar of excitement, bright lights shimmering over the glossy marble floors as people gathered around the fight ring. Derek moved silently through the frenzy, unnoticed, blending perfectly with the staff in a pristine white server's jacket. Years of navigating hostile territories had made slipping past security almost effortless. No one gave him a second glance. He was merely another worker carrying trays of overpriced drinks. Yet beneath his composed exterior, Derek's mind was entirely focused on the mission. Every move, every step was precisely planned. Tonight, Ricky Vega's world was about to fall apart, and Amanda would witness the collapse without realizing how near she stood to the man who had engineered it all. At ringside, Amanda glowed in a striking red dress that seemed far beyond the means of a dental assistant. She leaned against the barricade, smiling at the cameras, cheering Ricky as if victory was already hers over Derek. She appeared radiant and self-assured, like someone who believed she had outmaneuvered everyone around her. Derek paused briefly, watching her from within the crowd. There was a time when her smile had symbolized home, genuine and warm. Now it was cold, polished, and empty. The kind of smile belonging to someone addicted to winning, no matter the cost. While Amanda basked in the spotlight, Derek slipped past 2 distracted security guards, making his way toward the fighters' area. Years of experience had taught him well. He moved with the confidence of someone who belonged there, walking through the restricted corridor without a single soul questioning him. Ricky Vega's dressing room buzzed with chatter, his loyal crew laughing as they wrapped his hands. Derek pushed the door open and gave a commanding nod. "Security check," he stated, his voice steady and official. The team barely glanced up before returning to their tasks. Ricky's smile grew wider when he saw Derek. "Hey, soldier boy," he teased with a sly tone. "Came to watch me claim the championship." His Boston drawl carried the same arrogance Derek had noticed weeks ago in the garage. Derek chose not to respond to the provocation. Instead, he reached into his pocket and took out his phone. With a single swipe, everything changed. "Actually," Derek said in a composed manner, "I am here to deliver this." The screen illuminated a grainy video showing Ricky and two associates from his gym assaulting a local shop owner inside his office, demanding protection money he never asked for. The date was unmistakably recent, just a month old. Ricky's smile faded immediately. "Where on earth did you get that?" "From the same source as these," Derek answered, swiping to images of Amanda forging dental clinic documents and funneling funds into offshore accounts. He let the pictures remain long enough for Ricky to register their meaning. "The FBI would be very interested in this, especially considering your sister's name is tied to it." Ricky's expression stiffened, but his eyes betrayed him. "Leave Maria out of this," he warned. "She is a good kid," Derek said calmly. "Played in the minor leagues, earned a full scholarship. She has no clue that her older brother is funding her future with blood money. But if I send these files to the right people, that scholarship won't mean anything once her name gets pulled into an investigation." Ricky stepped forward, fists clenched tightly, yet Derek showed no sign of fear. "Go ahead," Derek challenged. "Throw another punch. Remember how that ended last time? But this is bigger than just broken wrists now. This is about choice. You either go down in the third round and disappear after tonight, or I expose everything. Your reputation, Amanda's freedom, and Maria's future. Choose wisely." For the first time, Ricky's bravado faded, replaced by true fear. The once cocky fighter now looked deflated and panicked. "You're crazy," he muttered. "No," Derek replied as he slid his phone back into his jacket. "I am meticulous." Ricky stared at the ground, breathing heavily, then gave a reluctant nod. "All right, third round, then I'm out." "Wise decision," Derek said, straightening his cuffs and heading toward the door, as if nothing had occurred. "This is your only warning. Cross me again, and no one will find you before I do." As Derek left the dressing room, the sounds of laughter and chatter faded behind him. He blended into the crowd, calm and composed. The first opponent had fallen, and by the night's end, Amanda's web of lies would begin to unravel right before her eyes. The crowd's roar shifted into boos the moment Ricky hit the mat in the third round, collapsing after a punch that barely touched his chin. The referee hurried in, waving his arms frantically, yet Derek could immediately sense the lack of sincerity in Ricky's display. It was a performance, and anyone with experience could see through it. The arena erupted with fury, fans yelling accusations of deceit. But Derek remained composed among the chaos, watching everything unfold exactly as he had planned. Ricky had played his role perfectly. By morning, his reputation would be in ruins and his career over. Derek was certain the fighter would disappear long before promoters or the Athletic Commission could launch any inquiries. Ricky Vega had just fought the final fight of his life. Amanda would soon learn the harsh consequences of trusting the wrong man. By the break of day, Ricky was nowhere to be found. His Dodge Challenger vanished from the casino garage, his apartment cleared out overnight, and the gym locked, a handwritten sign taped to the door stating closed until further notice. The city buzzed with speculation, sports networks suggesting illegal betting and match-fixing scandals. However, Amanda found herself facing far more urgent issues. Derek discovered her in the casino parking lot that afternoon, pacing nervously and shouting into her phone. Her voice was sharp with panic as she argued about frozen accounts and flagged transfers. She barely noticed Derek until he spoke calmly, almost casually saying, "Rough day." Amanda turned abruptly, her face drained of color with a mix of rage and fear. "You did this, didn't you? My bank accounts are frozen. The bank informed me the FBI flagged them." "You? Me?" Derek Hawkins interrupted calmly. "I never touched your accounts. I simply redirected all the money you stole to where it truly belongs. Veterans, charities, crisis helplines, rehabilitation programs, all under your name. People will see you as a hero, Amanda." Quite a switch from the truth. Her lips quivered as fury clashed with hopelessness. "You cannot do this. That money was mine." "The money was ours," Derek corrected. "But you used it to finance a criminal operation. Think of it as a donation. You always craved importance. Now the headlines will call you the generous donor who gave it all away." Amanda's phone slipped from her grasp as she staggered toward him, her composure falling apart. "Please, Derek, we can fix this. I made mistakes, but we can find a solution. Just stop this before it is too late." Derek took out his own phone from his pocket and pressed a button. Amanda's own voice filled the room, clear and incriminating. discussing money laundering and forged dental records with Ricky Vega. Her eyes grew wide in terror as the recording played. "You recorded me?" she gasped. "I record everything," Derek said coldly. "The FBI will have this if you try anything else. So go ahead. Call your lawyer. Call the police. Let's see how that goes for you." Amanda's shoulders slumped, and for the first time, she appeared utterly defeated. "You ruined me," she whispered. Derek responded with a voice cold as ice. "No, you ruined yourself. I only ensured you faced the consequences." He reached into his pocket one last time and pulled out his wedding band. Dropping it at her feet, he delivered the final words she would ever hear from him. "You declared war on me, Amanda, and I never lose wars." Amanda sank against a concrete pillar, sobbing and clutching the ring as Derek turned and walked away. The sound of her shattered sobs followed him across the parking lot. Yet inside Derek, there was only silence, not happiness, not anger, just a peaceful sense of a job done. The storm Amanda had tried to control finally broke upon her with no chance to escape. Within a week, federal agents seized every account connected to her fraudulent dental billing schemes. News outlets began exposing her ties to a local money laundering operation, directly linking her to Ricky Vega's protection racket. The FBI raided her office, confiscating documents, computers, and even interviewing patients whose identities had been used to create false billing records. Amanda's photograph appeared across the local news under the headline, "Dental Office Manager Charged in Multi-State Fraud Investigation." Once she loved being the center of attention, wearing expensive outfits and flaunting her success. Now her name was splashed everywhere for all to see. Derek sat quietly throughout the hearing. Amanda entered the courtroom in shackles, her once flawless posture now collapsed and defeated. She avoided meeting his gaze, but he did not look away. His presence was intentional, a stark reminder of all she had discarded. When it was his moment to testify, Derek spoke calmly, his voice steady, free of anger that might distort his words. He delivered his account with the same careful precision he used during military briefings, detailing every fraudulent deal, every recorded exchange, and the steps Amanda took to destroy him. The prosecutor posed sharp questions, and Derek's responses made it unmistakably clear who had masterminded the entire scheme. She was not merely assisting Ricky Vega, Derek stated plainly. She was the one managing the accounts, fabricating false identities, making sure the money flowed without leaving any traces. Ricky handled intimidation. Amanda managed logistics. She was the mastermind. Midway through the trial, Amanda broke down in tears, begging the judge to believe she had been coerced by Ricky. However, the evidence Derek provided, including recordings of her bragging about how easily funds were shifted through the dental office, shattered any hope for mercy. When the judge finally announced her sentence, the courtroom fell silent. Amanda Hawthorne was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison for fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. She would be eligible for parole only after serving a substantial amount of her sentence. Parole was possible after 8 years, but Derek doubted she would endure that long in a place where criminals enforced their own version of justice. Ricky's fall was quicker and far more visible. Clips of him assaulting business owners for protection payments spread rapidly online. The State Athletic Commission prohibited him from all official matches, revoking his license. Local gyms severed relationships, sponsors withdrew their support, and fans who had once celebrated his spectacular knockouts now branded him a coward and a fraud. His reputation became linked to disgrace, his once promising career destroyed. Within days of losing his last fight, Ricky vanished. Some believed he escaped to Mexico. Others insisted he was hiding in South America under an assumed identity. Derek heard all these speculations but saw no reason to verify them. Ricky no longer mattered. His existence was finished, not by Derek's actions, but by his own greed and foolishness. That night, Derek was seated in his workshop with a single glass of whiskey. The soft buzzing of the ceiling fan was the only sound filling the room. His wedding ring was missing. The mark where Ricky had struck the garage floor had long been cleaned away. Yet the memories remained. He gazed at the tools resting on his workbench, the exact instruments he had once used to craft furniture for Amanda, the same hands that had devoted years to securing her future. Now, those hands had torn apart everything she had created to ruin him. Slowly, he lifted his glass, his eyes fixed on the amber liquid as though it carried a secret. He reflected silently on every tough lesson he had faced. Some conflicts had ended with agreements, he whispered to himself. Yet, this one concluded with surrender. There was no happiness in his voice, no triumph, only a profound, icy sense of finality. Amanda was no longer present. Ricky was reduced to a mere shadow, and Derek had reclaimed his life. It was not the same life he once had, but one shaped by pain and betrayal. As he drained his drink, a weary, faint smile crossed his lips. The mission was accomplished. The war had finally ended. The following months were calm, almost unnervingly so. Derek immersed himself in work that gave him meaning, volunteering with veteran support groups and organizing fundraisers for injured troops. His reputation began to spread among circles where honor still held value. He did not seek praise, yet families mourning the loss of fathers and brothers wrote to thank him for recovering lost funds or linking them to vital assistance. For the first time in years, Derek felt his service truly mattered, not on the front lines, but in the lives of those who had sacrificed everything and were forgotten. Long afternoons were spent in his workshop, crafting furniture for charity auctions. The process of shaping wood with his hands kept him grounded, reminding him that creating was just as important as destroying. Occasionally, while smoothing a chair or polishing a table, thoughts of Amanda came to him, not with bitterness, but with a solemn acceptance. Everything Amanda had once shared with him vanished long before she did. The woman who waited patiently by the window for his return no longer existed. Amanda ceased to be the moment she chose Ricky instead of loyalty, and greed over love claimed her soul. Eventually, he learned about her situation through mutual contacts. Amanda had been sent to a federal prison in another state. Life behind bars was harsh. Without Ricky's protection or money to secure favors, she became just one more prisoner, discarded by a system that consumed those who could not fight back. Whispers claimed she spent the majority of her time isolated, crushed by the harsh truth that her alluring ways no longer held any power. People she had once called friends cut all ties, unwilling to be linked with a convicted con artist. Even her own family ignored her desperate letters. Derek felt no pleasure from her downfall, only a resigned understanding that some betrayals carried irreversible consequences. Certain acts of treachery could never be undone. One stormy evening, Derek sat alone in his workshop sipping coffee when his satellite phone buzzed insistently. The caller ID was familiar, so he answered immediately. "Hawkins," he said. Tommy Kowalski's voice broke through the static. "Got news you might want to hear, Sergeant. There's a gang ripping off disabled veterans, taking their benefits. Same playbook Ricky used, but on a much bigger scale. Thought you'd want in." Derek lounged back in his chair, gazing at the ceiling thoughtfully. Once upon a time, he would have refused such an offer outright. Trying to create a new life far from the shadows of his past had not been easy. Yet now, he understood better than before. Some battles did not remain on distant lands. They existed here, hidden within quiet neighborhoods and respectable offices, controlled by those who preyed on people who had already given their all. "I am in," Derek said at last. "I thought you would say that. Details will be sent your way," Ricky Vega answered before ending the call. Derek stood up, grabbed his jacket, and took one last look around his workshop before stepping out. As he climbed into his truck, a familiar sense of calm washed over him. It was the same focused quiet he used to experience before missions abroad. While driving through the misty night, he spoke quietly to himself. The true fight was not overseas. It was here at home, against those who betrayed the very people who sacrificed everything. For Derek Hawkins, the mission was far from finished. In fact, it was only just beginning.